Hello and welcome to Crossfire, the show that dives into the heart of global conflicts, where nations collide, alliances shift, and lives hang in the balance. On tonight's show, we tell you how a renewed diplomatic push from America and Israel could see a hostage deal in Gaza. Also, we tell you how the fall of Bashar al-Assad's regime in Syria has revealed new horrors in the form of Ceasefire prison that was used to imprison opponents of the regime and several innocents. Stay tuned as we break down these critical developments and explore their impact on the future of global power and security. With high-stakes diplomacy in full swing, Jake Sullivan's talks with Benjamin Netanyahu have sparked renewed hopes for a breakthrough. A potential hostage deal in Gaza could mark a critical turning point in this ongoing crisis. But with shifting demands from Hamas, international pressure mounting, and families anxiously waiting for answers, the stakes couldn't be higher. Let's break down the latest developments for you.
In a high-stakes diplomatic mission, US National Security Adviser Jake Sullivan visited Israel, meeting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to push forward ceasefire negotiations in Gaza. The talks are focused on a critical hostage deal that could mark a turning point in this prolonged crisis. After the meeting, Sullivan expressed optimism, saying, "I got the sense from the Prime Minister he's ready to do a deal."
We can't rest until it actually happens. It might not happen, but I believe it can happen with political will on both sides. The Israeli government has indicated, including the Prime Minister, they would like to see this done. We see movement from Hamas. We see commitment from the mediators. And I will go to Doha and Cairo to try to ensure the final impetus is there to bring this all together. We've been close before and haven't gotten there, so I can't make any promises or predictions to you. But I wouldn't be here today if I thought this thing was just waiting till after January 20th. I am here today because I believe every day matters, and we are going to use every day we have to try to close the deal as soon as we possibly can.
Netanyahu's readiness to negotiate has raised hopes for the release of hostages still held by Hamas. The urgency is clear. Families of hostages in both the US and Israel have been pleading for action, especially after a failed immediate progress, dismissing claims that Netanyahu might be stalling for political reasons, saying, "We want to close this deal this month." Recent reports suggest a shift in Hamas's stance, with the group reportedly agreeing to key Israeli demands. This includes allowing IDF forces to remain in Gaza during a fighting pause and dropping its demand for a permanent halt to Israeli operations. A list of hostages, including Americans, has already been handed over, but questions remain about how many will be released and their identities. International pressure is mounting. Just this week, the UN General Assembly overwhelmingly called for an immediate, unconditional ceasefire and the release of all hostages. While not binding, the resolution reflects global consensus on the urgency of the situation. Sullivan is now set to travel to Qatar and Egypt, key players in mediating these negotiations. The stakes couldn't be higher as the world watches for a breakthrough in this deeply complex and heartbreaking crisis. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Ceasefire prison, a name synonymous with terror and death. For years, this fortress of horror in Syria remained cloaked in secrecy, its walls bearing witness to unspeakable atrocities. Its purpose was not justice, but domination, a tool of fear wielded by Bashar al-Assad's regime to silence dissent. But in a moment that defied the darkness, something unimaginable happened. The gates of Ceasefire were breached, and hope returned for hundreds who believed it was lost forever. This is the story of Ceasefire, its horrors, its survivors, and a reckoning long overdue. Take a look.
Imagine this, a place so horrific, so cruel, that its name alone strikes fear into the hearts of millions. A place known not as a prison, but as a death camp, a slaughterhouse. For decades, Ceasefire prison in Syria was shrouded in secrecy. a fortress of torture where hope went to die. But just days ago, in an astonishing twist, hundreds of prisoners saw something they never dared to dream of: freedom. Over 30,000 people have died in Chechnya since the Syrian civil war began in 2011. That's not just a number, it's 30,000 lives extinguished. How? Torture, starvation, medical neglect. The very design of Chechnya was a death sentence, as per the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights, a UK-based monitor. This wasn't a place for justice. It was a weapon of fear wielded by Bashar al-Assad's regime to crush dissent. Political opponents, students, critics, anyone who dared to question the dictatorship ended up here. And for many, it was the end of their story. The prison had two main buildings. The Red Building housed civilians, teachers, journalists, protesters, while the White Building was for military personnel accused of disloyalty. But make no mistake, neither group was spared. Both buildings were equipped with execution chambers. 2 days a week, death penalties were carried out, sometimes in ways so brutal that even a military colonel fainted during a mass execution.
وصلنا 35 جثة كلهم صيدناها. جثث لسه شايفين مشوهة مقطعة مو معروف مين. حسبنا الله ونعم الوكيل.
Survivors describe the unthinkable. God forcing prisoners to kill their own cellmates. The stories are endless, each more horrific than the last. And when families finally uncovered Chechnya's secrets after Assad fled, they found decomposed bodies, blackened, dismembered, unrecognizable. Mothers and fathers tried to identify the children amid the stench of death.
محمد عادل الترك وهي اسم اخي عدنان الترك من حي الآبون. انا اخي من 11 سنه اخذينه الجويه وما عليه شيء من قدام الباب، وهلا كلياتهم جثث محروقه وجثث مقطوع راسها، وهذا النظام هذا اللي حكمنا هذا ما لقيتها.
Breaking into Chechnya wasn't easy. The prison was a fortress. 3 layers of security surrounded it, with anti-tank mines planted in the fields to deter any attack. The outermost layer, guards monitoring every vehicle, every person, and every communication coming in or out. The second layer, elite forces armed to the teeth and fiercely loyal to Assad, ready to crush any rebellion. And the third layer, guards stationed inside, watching for any signs of escape or resistance among the prisoners. Yet, the rebels who stormed Chechnya on Saturday found a way. They set fields on fire, triggering the landmines, and tore through each layer of security until they reached the prisoners. When the gates of Chechnya were finally breached, rescuers did not just find survivors, they uncovered evidence of unimaginable suffering. Families who had waited for years, hoping for news, were confronted with the brutal reality of what had happened to their loved ones. One former inmate described how guards would starve prisoners, beat them, and force them into acts of unspeakable violence against each other. The goal wasn't just to kill, it was to break every ounce of hope, every shred of humanity. Even now, as the last chapter of Chechnya is being written, its legacy of honor endures. For the survivors, freedom is just the beginning of a new battle, a battle to heal, to rebuild, and to remember. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
With the help of open source forensic application and data from Amnesty International, we have digitally reconstructed what the inside of the most dreaded prison in the world looks like in 3D. Based on the report, there are group cells where groups of prisoners are kept, and then there are solitary cells containing small group of prisoners, reportedly constructed underground. However, recent inputs from ground investigation by Syrian civilian defense organization White Helmet stated no evidence of underground secret cells. The Chechnya prison constituted 3 levels of security, including anti-tank landmines in surrounding areas and radio communication systems. Satellite images accessed from Maxar Technologies near Damascus suggest the number of graves increased significantly from 2012 to 2022. The absence of mass combat fatalities during this period made experts speculate whether the graves may contain dead prisoners of Sednaya.
Reports by human rights and advocacy groups suggest that there were well-established policies to kill prisoners. Hundreds or probably thousands of people died because of torture at Sednaya. One form of punishment was to make prisoners sleep naked on the floor in the freezing cold night, which led to many casualties. Former detainees have revealed that bodies were collected in the morning. We have accessed satellite imagery from 2018 that shows elongated objects in the compound of white building of the prison. These objects were found to be about 6 feet in length, suggesting that they could be human bodies.
And now let's take a closer look at another milestone in India's defense journey. How the Sukhoi 30 MKI deal is not just about boosting firepower, but also building a self-reliant future. Take a look.
India's journey towards becoming a self-reliant powerhouse in defense just took a giant leap forward. The Ministry of Defence has signed a groundbreaking deal with Hindustan Aeronautics Limited to procure 12 advanced Su-30 MKI fighter jets. This agreement, valued at Rs 13,500 crore or $1.63 billion, is not just about boosting the Indian Air Force's capabilities. It's a shining example of the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative in action. The Su-30 MKI isn't just another aircraft. It's a highly capable Russian-origin fighter jet tailored specifically for the Indian Air Force's needs. Over the years, HAL has developed the expertise to manufacture these jets locally under an intergovernmental framework. This new contract will see these state-of-the-art aircraft rolling out of HAL's Nashik division, a hub of innovation and manufacturing excellence. What makes this deal unique? Well, 62.6% of the components for these jets will be indigenously produced. HAL, in collaboration with the Indian defence industry, has worked tirelessly to localize numerous critical parts and systems. This level of indigenization isn't just about cost savings. It's about building a robust domestic defence ecosystem. Every component manufactured locally boosts employment, supports allied industries, and strengthens India's defence supply chain. The Su-30 MKI is a twin-engine, multi-role fighter jet capable of undertaking a variety of missions. It's renowned for its agility, advanced avionics, and ability to carry a vast arsenal of weapons. For the Indian Air Force, these jets are essential to maintaining air superiority in a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. With this procurement, the Indian Air Force is set to bolster its fleet significantly. The new aircraft will enhance its operational readiness, giving it an edge in both offensive and defensive operations. Whether it's saving Indian airspace or undertaking strategic missions, the Su-30 MKI has proven to be a reliable workhorse. For India, this deal is much more than just an acquisition of fighter jets. It's a statement of intent, a commitment to strengthening national security while fostering self-reliance. The contract also underscores India's ability to design, develop, and produce world-class defense equipment. The Ministry of Defence highlighted the broader implications of this deal, stating that the supply of these aircrafts will not only enhance the Indian Air Force's operational capabilities, but also boost India's overall defence preparedness. In an increasingly uncertain world, maintaining a strong and modern military is crucial, and the Su-30 MKI deal is a step in that direction. As these jets prepare to take flight from HAL's Nashik division, the message is clear. India is committed to securing its borders and skies with cutting-edge technology that is increasingly made in India. The contract is a win-win. It strengthens the Indian Air Force's fleet, boosts local manufacturing, and aligns with the country's vision of becoming a global defense powerhouse. Bureau Report, India Today Global.
That's all we have for you in this edition of Crossfire. You can catch us again next week on India Today Global.